Hello, Steve White, Trickboy89 for Steve Arts89. Well, we have some suggestion of movement on another Star Trek film. Trek Core, and I don't know who originated the article, but I just saw the Trek Core one first, and they're a reputable Star Trek site. They have an article, Discovery Short Trek Writer Kalinda Vazquez to script new Star Trek film for J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. Now, the scenario that we are hearing now is that there's two scenarios. One is that Paramount wants to get away from Bad Robot and they're waiting out the contract basically, and they're basically ignoring all of JJ's pitches because JJ can propose to do films under the new contract, under the old contract and everything. But if they don't take that up, they eventually get out of the contract and they can just make their own films free of Bad Robot and any of that. And the talk is, that's the suggestion is that's what they want to do. They want to just produce the films themselves like they used to and not have to go through Bad Robot, which is what they were doing because of all the contractual issues with CBS and all of that. So there's that. And the other suggestion is that all these talk of new films is basically just Bad Robot trying to get something started, and you build it, they will come. You wish it, you talk about it, you try and make it real, you put it out into the press, see if people like it, follow it, share it, see if it gets legs, see if it'll walk. That's sort of the suggestion of what's happening, and the other suggestion is that they're just trying to write something new, and I'm not sure if JJ's an issue with that, or if they would still produce it through them, or I'm not exactly sure. There's sort of, like I said, there's two sort of sides to how people are suggesting the film's going. One is that they're trying to get out of dealing with JJ. The other is that they are still going to work with him, but it's not going to be the same as before. And I'm not sure because it's rumours, it's gossip, it's like Doomcock, the fandom menace, that sort of crowd on one side, and then other people speculating on the other side. And there's very little official word. The official word, I think, was that Noah Cowley was working on a film, but it was too much of a stretch and it was basically another reboot, just starting again was how they were putting it. They were originally suggesting that it was going to be in the J.J. Kelvin verse, and they were saying it wasn't, and then they were saying it was a new crew, but in that same universe, and it just came across like a reboot, and apparently they just didn't want to deal with that, and he only wanted to do his idea, so basically that just fell apart. Now this one, the information is pretty slight, and the article talks about how they started off with the Chris Pine helmed Star Trek 4, which was just gossip to try and talk up Star Trek 3 and look at the confidence of Star Trek 3, we're going right into Star Trek 4. And they had an idea that they had the financing was there because they'd said, look, we've got Chris Pine, we've got Chris Hemsworth, we're going to have them playing father and son, blah, blah, blah. But they weren't prepared to pay them the original salaries they were negotiated, so they walked, and that film fell apart because they had no funding, because the only thing they had to sell it was these two stars, so they lost them. Then there was the Tarantino film Nobody Wanted, which is not a Star Trek film at all, and Tarantino apparently doesn't know what Star Trek is because, not even going to go into that. And then, of course, there was the Noah Hawley one. But the new thing, revealed by Deadline, Star Trek Short Treks and Star Trek Discovery writer Kalinda Vazquez has been tapped by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot production team to script an original movie set in Star Trek universe. So how they have any say, because Paramount is now in charge, that's the whole debate. It's like, well, who is in charge of Star Trek now? Is it Paramount? Is it Bad Robot? Bad Robot was working for Paramount to get around the contractual stuff with CBS, but that's not an issue anymore overall because they're one company now, but the contracts are still separate entities, so that it's a bit of a mess. It says that Vazquez has written on Star Trek Discovery, and insiders said this is a blind deal for an original movie that she hatched, one that expands her role in the Star Trek universe. So it's suggesting she might have approached them with an idea, that she had an idea. Initially it talks like they went to her and said, can you write us a story. But it sounds, from other descriptions, or in that description, that quote, that she actually had an idea. So, I don't know. Little is known about the story. If they're talking about how if Abrams is involved, it may be set in the Kelvin timeline, the home of the other actors, blah, blah, blah. But it's being referred to as an original movie, so it could take place anywhere, anytime. And due to the whole popularity of multiverse stories, it really could be anywhere. But that was sort of the problem with the first film. They didn't want to have to redesign the whole universe for a new film. They just wanted to do another film in that set universe. So I think when they say original, they're just trying to make a new script sound something more than just the next movie. As with Vazquez, they talk about her contribution to Star Trek. She wrote the Captain Pike's short Trek Ask Not. Now, I had some real issues with that story. In some ways, it was kind of well written. The way the characters kind of were okay, but the basic premise that they would blow up a officer, literally blow her off her feet. Her hearing's messed up. She thinks they're in the battle, and it fakes out the audience because you don't know this is a test. She apparently doesn't know the test. The idea that the military might do something like this, but Star Trek's not military. So the idea they would literally blow up someone and then pretend to be in the middle of a war situation just to see how they would act, and then give them a promotion on the spot. And then she just walks into the engineering like she doesn't need medical attention, having just been blown off her feet and having her eardrums spout. It's just really, the whole premise itself doesn't work, but the actual writing, it's just, the style of writing is a problem. It's not intelligent. It asks you to turn your brain off and just experience it. Oh, stuff blew up. Oh, I don't know what's happening. Oh, yay, now she's going to be the next big star on the ship. She's going to be like the... No, it wouldn't work like that in real life. She would literally be in hospital for a week for having her eardrums blown out, and she'd probably be traumatized and have post-traumatic stress. This is not a realistic take. It was not a realistic take, and you can say, oh, it's just a story, it's fun, you're supposed to be entertained. I'm like, yeah, but I think sometimes when I'm watching shows, sometimes I can switch my brain off and enjoy something. Other times I'm thinking in real terms when I'm watching it, and if things don't work, it stops me from being able to go into that story. So I'm a little bit weary of that. She's worked on the CW's Nikita, which I haven't seen. ABC's Once Upon a Time, which I have seen, which I thought was good, but I haven't seen all of it. I've seen the first 3 seasons. I've got a lot of shows I've seen the first couple of seasons and haven't finished. And people talk about them, and then I'm like, well, I saw the first couple of seasons, but I don't know if it was good in the last couple of seasons. Hulu's Runaways, which I haven't seen. AMC's Fear the Walking Dead, which was okay. Again, I've only seen the first season. And she's had a run on Marvel Comics' latest American Chavez comic. I don't know who the hell that is. American Chavez, made in USA. Chavez. I'm just pronouncing that as it looks to me, Chavez. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong, please. I'm sorry. But Marvel Comics doesn't have the best reputation for writing anymore. It's all very woke and political at the moment, and I just had an argument with a fan about woke. They were saying the original Star Trek was woke, and I'm like, no. Woke is fake. When you are trying to actually support minorities or defend civil rights and all that sort of thing, that's like a real cause that people take up. Being woke is just claiming to do that so that you get attention and points and popularity, and you don't care about the issue. It's interchangeable. So I'm not really sure. I don't know what her comic was like. I didn't see it. I didn't read it, so I haven't heard any reviews. It may have been really good. Now, the only promising thing about this at all, is that her father was a huge Star Trek fan. She's actually named after a Star Trek character, Kalinda, from the original series, which it got me. I'm like, oh, that's right, yeah, I remember now. But just seeing it in writing, it didn't click. But once I said it in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, Kalinda, okay. And her dad was really obsessed with the show, and she watched the show from a kid, and she loved the storytelling. She just loved the original show, and it got her into storytelling in general and films in general. And She references, I don't know if I should read the whole quote or just reference to what she's saying. Okay. My father named me after a Star Trek character. Kalinda appeared in only one episode of the original Star Trek, in which my namesake, a member of an alien posse, attempts to overtake the Enterprise and her crew. Needless to say, my intimate relationship with television was damn near a birthright. I remember watching Star Trek as a child in awe of the fictional universe that so inspired my father he was compelled to name his firstborn after one of its characters. That's one hell of an influential fictional universe. My father's love for TV and film and good storytelling in general was either contagious, genetic, or both. I loved these mediums and for entertainment value, but I also loved them because they made me think about things I might not have thought about before. The really good bits, say the ending of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or a particularly salient argument between Archie and Meathead in All in the Family, both good references. Close Encounters is a brilliant film. All in the Family is a very important show in the US for the way it told its stories, and so those are good references. She's got some points there. Even challenging the way I looked at the world, it didn't take long for me to realise the more stories I consumed, the more my imagination grew and the more I wanted to create some stories of my own. She doesn't sound like a twat. She sounds okay. Just that little bit there. There's a few little things that make me think maybe she might be okay. Now, is she being hired just because she's a woman and they have to have a woman writer because you can't have a male writer or a male director or anything anymore? Now, there's plenty of women who are great writers and directors and great science fiction writers. If they can get one for Star Trek, I don't care, as long as they're a good writer. Is she a good writer, though? Is she just there because she's the right quota? So that's what people will say, and just because she's a woman doesn't mean that's the case. But people will say that is the case. I don't know, because like I said, I haven't seen much of what she's done or what she's been involved with. Michelle Paradise was all over it. She's all, oh, congratulations, so excited to see this one day, hopefully sooner than later, blah, blah, blah. That's when it was on Deadline. So, and the funniest thing about this article, which I've got to reference, this guy writing for Trek Core said, while some Discovery-era Star Trek naysayers may still believe or wish that the modern shows are part of the Kelvin timeline, which they are, the alternative universe setting of Star Trek Into Darkness and Into Beyond, the latest season of Discovery for the first time mentioned the existence of that separate timeline, one in which Captain Pike captains the Enterprise instead of William Shatner. Sorry, Chris Pine. For a second I thought, I hate making mistakes. How they get that so wrong? I'm like, is that a deliberate gaslight or are they just that stupid? Referring to the alternative timeline and referring to the universe of Discovery as the prime universe is putting it in the JJ universe, because the JJ universe is the prime universe. They created that in place of the original Star Trek canon universe because they didn't have the rights to it. So when they mentioned that on Discovery, they clearly put Discovery in the prime timeline, which is the universe outside of JJ's timeline, but in JJ's universe. So same universe, different timeline. They're saying, oh, well, because they mentioned it, it means it's not in that universe because it's not in that timeline. I'm like, yeah, it's not in that timeline, but it's in that universe, and that's a different universe from the original Star Trek universe. You idiots. They're using the thing that proves it's that universe to say it isn't. And I'm like, is that just trying to gaslight? Or are they that stupid they don't understand how it works? So she's writing the script. It could be anything, we don't know. If she had an original idea and she's a good writer and she really cares, it could be good. If she's just been grabbed because she's on Discovery and she's a woman and it's like, oh, you meet the quotas, write a story for us so we can promote you as a female writer for the new Star Trek, well then who knows what it could be, because we don't know how much talent she has or how much she cares about it. It sounds like this is generated from her, so it may actually be good. So I'm not going to trash it, but the fact Bad Robot's involved, I've heard, like I said, that some people are saying Paramount is going to work through Bad Robot anyway. Other people are saying they're trying to get out of that contract. They want to produce Star Trek without any other third party. So I really don't know because I don't trust any of the Fandom Menace people anymore. I don't trust any of the Paramount press, the CBS press. So I really don't know what they're doing with this. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if this is just them trying to make it happen by, you talk about it, you try and make it happen when it's not actually happening, like the last couple of Star Trek films, which I don't know how far in development the Noah Cowley one got. People are saying it actually got into pre-production, but there's no proof of that. So I don't know. But this is interesting. Part of me is like, God, Discovery writer, JJ, oh, it's going to be a disaster. And the rest of me is looking at it going, she seems to be an actual fan. She seems to actually have passion for the project. Just because she's writing for JJ that's the only Star Trek being produced. So if she's a real Star Trek fan and wants to write for Star Trek, that's where you would go. So maybe, I'm trying to be optimistic here. It is part of my nature. But yeah, I'm going to go. I've been talking for 16 minutes. I wasn't expecting to talk this long on this video. But we will see what happens. I just want a good film. I don't care if it's in the JJ verse. I was happy with those other films being a separate universe because it meant they didn't touch the Prime canon universe. The canon universe, because they're in the Prime universe. Separate universes, I'm fine with that. The main issue with Discovery is they still try and pretend the Prime universe that they are definitely in is the same universe as the canon universe, and that just insults Star Trek fans like on an episodally basis, basically. So if they can just write something new in that universe, or go back to the Prime universe and write something new in that. I've got to stop saying Prime, because then people get confused and think, I don't know. It's just when they originally created the universe, they lied to us fans and told us the Prime universe was the original universe. So some people, and I do find myself still referring to it as the Prime universe sometimes when I know the Prime universe is the Kelvin universe. So it's easy to say Kelvin or original, because when I say Prime, sometimes I use it for both, which is very confusing for other people. I've made that mistake a couple of times. But yeah, I just want a good original show or a good JJ show. They've already established that universe. I'm okay with it. The films are more action-orientated. If they could just do a more science fiction-based story, more character-based story, rather than just big action pieces, it'd be better. But as big action pieces as spectacles, they sort of had their own purpose. They did bring new people to Star Trek to an extent, but then they alienated real fans, and new fans didn't stay on. I don't know, I'm still talking. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. Do you think this is real? Do you think this is just trying to get some attention, or do you think there's actually some movement happening? Is this being generated from someone inside Paramount using Bad Robot, or is Bad Robot generating it to try and get Paramount to basically engage with them so they can keep their contract? I don't know. But it's 18 minutes now. I've got to stop talking. Thanks. Bye.